1 hour after work. A Korean salaryman turned 10 certificates and 13 years into a system anyone can copy. Think back to the last time you got home from work. Not a weekend, an ordinary Tuesday. You ate something, you sat down, and then the night quietly dissolved into phone, TV, bed. The course you meant to start, the skill you meant to learn, the certificate that could actually change your prospects, it didn't happen. Again. Now imagine someone told you the only real difference between you and the person who actually changed their life is 1 single hour. 1 hour after work. Not 2. Not an entire weekend. Just 60 minutes a day, guarded like the last piece of something precious. It sounds like a lie, doesn't it? But before you swipe away, hear who's saying it. The book is by a Korean office worker named Lee Dong-jae. In Korean, the title is Jikjangin Gongbubbeop, roughly the office worker study method. There's no English edition, so I'll work with the core idea directly. 1 hour after work, the daily habit that changes your tomorrow. Lee is not a motivational speaker. He's a civil servant who, in the hours after clocking out, passed more than 10 professional exams in 13 years, the US certified public accountant, the chartered financial analyst, the financial risk manager, a real estate license, and others most people never attempt even once, work that earned him a presidential commendation. He wrote this book for people exactly like you and me. Tired, busy, and absolutely convinced we don't have the time. And his core claim is this: what decides how far you ultimately go is never your degree, never your starting point, not even how hard you try. It's what you do with the 1 hour after work. Part 1. Why 1 hour? Let's start with the most basic question. Why 1 hour after work? And not 2, not 3, not the whole weekend? Lee opens with a metaphor, and it's a good one. Picture your energy as a cake that's already been sliced. The 8 hours you gave to your job, that was the biggest piece, handed directly to the company and the boss. By the time you get home, there isn't much left. So when you tell yourself you'll study 4 or 5 hours, or learn 3 new skills, you're lying to yourself. The cake is gone. You can't. But 1 hour is different. 1 hour is the last smear of cream on the plate. It isn't much, but it's still there, and it's the only time in your entire day that's truly yours, the only resource you actually control. Lee asks a sharp question. If you can't protect even this 1 hour, what makes you think a whole free day would save you? We see the same pattern in real life. The people who say, I'll study when I have time, never have time. The people who say, I'll invest in myself when I have money, never have money. But the people who actually changed didn't wait. They carved out that hour at their busiest and most exhausted. And they did it day after day, year after year, until the accumulation turned them into someone their old self wouldn't recognize. Lee tells a real story that stuck with me. A Korean salaryman worked as a convenience store cashier, on his feet 8 hours a day. He came home and basically collapsed. But he made himself one iron rule. No matter how tired, 1 hour after work, every single day learning graphic design. At first, it was miserable. He'd fall asleep mid-tutorial. But he didn't quit. 3 years. 3 years later, he wasn't a cashier anymore. He was a design director at an advertising agency, earning multiples of what he made before. Lee says he's seen this pattern too many times to count. No special talent. No connections. The only thing those people did right was defend that 1 hour after work. Part 2. What that hour is for. You're probably thinking, I get it, but by the time I get home I'm wiped. I barely have the energy to lie down and scroll. You want me to study for an hour on top of that? That's not reasonable. That question is exactly right because it touches the real reason most people fail. Lee spends an entire chapter answering it. He says you've misunderstood one thing from the start. You treat that hour as a cost, an extra burden. Done right, it's the opposite. It's recovery. It's a recharge. Sounds contradictory, right? How can learning feel like rest? Lee's explanation is precise. There are 2 kinds of tiredness: physical tiredness and mental tiredness. Most of us after work are not physically tired. We're mentally tired because all day you've been reacting to your boss, your colleagues, your tasks. Your brain was in receive mode, never in control. And that passive state is what exhausts you. But when you do something you actually chose, learn a skill, read a book you picked out, build a small project, your brain flips from passive to active. And here's the strange part. You're still using your mind, but you feel better. Like people who go for a run after work. The body is more tired, but the mood is better. That sense of control gives the brain a particular kind of relief. Lee calls it mental charging. Used well, that hour doesn't drain you. Charges you. Now for the second core question. What should that hour actually be spent on? Here's the principle to remember. The value of that hour depends on whether what you do has compound interest. Compound interest, simply put, does the time you spend today keep paying you later? Scroll short videos for an hour, and when the hour ends, it's over. Nothing accumulates. But spend that hour learning a skill, writing something, meeting someone useful. Any of those can pay you back for years. The skill gets you promoted. The writing builds your name. The relationship opens a door. Lee groups the compounding things into 3 types. The first is skill investment. Learn a skill you can turn into income. The key phrase is turn into income. Not just anything you study, but something the market actually pays for. Video editing right now. Data analysis. Coding. Copywriting. The second is content investment. Make something that stays. And by stays, I mean the thing you made today can still be found tomorrow, next week, next year. A blog post, podcast, a short video. Once it's online, it keeps pulling attention and building your presence while you sleep. The third is relationship investment. Care for the people who will matter to your future. And Lee is specific here. It's not how many people you know. It's how many people know you. 10,000 contacts in your phone are useless if none of them think of you when something opens up, if none of them would route an opportunity your way. All 3 share one trait. They don't pay off immediately. You study editing for an hour, you're not an editor tomorrow. You write 1 article, you're not known tomorrow. But multiply that hour by 365 days, then by 3 or 5 years, and the force underneath is startling. Lee did the math. 1 hour a day every day is 365 hours a year. By the 10,000-hour rule, it takes about 27 years to become world-class. 27 sounds long, but start at 25, and you're an expert at 52, with 0 damage to your day job. And here's the part that matters more. You don't have to wait for world-class. Usually 2 or 3 years of accumulation gets you clearly above average, and that's when opportunities start flowing to you. Part 3. Make it run on its own. The third core question, and this one decides everything. How do you design that hour so it runs on autopilot instead of on willpower you have to summon every single night? Lee's concept is the behavior trigger. You tie that after-work hour to one fixed action until it becomes a reflex. Some people start studying the second they walk in and change clothes. Some the moment they finish dinner and clear the dishes. Some the minute the kids are asleep. That fixed preceding action is the trigger. When the trigger appears, the brain drops into study mode with no debate and no hesitation. Lee's point: willpower is limited. If you have to argue yourself into studying every night, you'll burn out your willpower and quit. But build the trigger and studying becomes automatic. Costs you nothing. Like brushing your teeth in the morning, you never deliberate about whether today counts. It's just what happens. Beyond the trigger, Lee offers environment design. Your behavior is largely shaped by your environment. If you want that hour to stick, arrange the space to push you toward it. Phone in another room. Study materials on the most visible shelf. Desk cleared. When the environment is calling you to study, getting into the right state becomes easy. Reverse it. You walk in, the couch has your phone and the remote, the TV faces you, then of course you scroll and watch. You'd be the odd one if you didn't. Lee tells a great example. A student was addicted to gaming after work and couldn't quit. Lee's fix: lock the console in a cabinet, give the key to his wife, and make a rule that he only gets the key after 1 hour of study. Guess what happened? At first, he still asked for the key. But after the hour of study, he found he didn't actually want to play anymore, because studying had given him a different kind of satisfaction. A month later, he sold the console. He'd discovered learning was more interesting than the game. The lesson: a lot of the time we don't persist not because our willpower is weak, but because the environment is pulling against us. Change the environment to support the goal, and persistence becomes easy. Part 4. Mindset. Slow is fast. The fourth question, the one most people skip, but the most important: what should your mindset be during that hour? Lee has watched too many people start and then quit. Not from tiredness. From impatience. They wanted today's study to pay off tomorrow, this month's effort to bring the promotion next month. Reality doesn't work that way. Real growth is slow, almost invisible, like planting a tree. You water it today, it doesn't grow an inch by tomorrow. You don't see the roots spreading underground or the nutrients gathering, but those invisible things are the ones that matter. Lee's metaphor is boiling water. You turn on the heat. The water is cold. 5 minutes, still cold. 10 minutes, a little warm, nowhere near boiling. Most people quit right here, because the fire's been on so long and the water still won't boil. But keep going and suddenly it boils, and once it boils, it stays boiling. Growth is the same. Before the tipping point, you see almost nothing. Past it, all the effort pays off at once. So Lee insists on one mindset for the entire journey. Slow is fast. Don't rush, don't panic, don't hunt for shortcuts. Like the title says, it's about saving your life, not speedrunning it. Saving is long, patient work. You're not sprinting. You're running a marathon. Run a marathon at 100-meter pace and you'll collapse at the halfway line. Find your rhythm, run slow and steady, and you'll go further. Lee names one mindset trap above all: comparing yourself to others. Too many people quit because they keep measuring themselves against someone else. Anxious when others move fast, jealous when others succeed, convinced they're too slow or too weak. But understand, everyone starts differently, moves at a different pace, aims at a different target. Your progress doesn't need to beat anyone else's. It only needs to beat yesterday's. If today's you is even a little better than yesterday's, even 0.1% better, that is progress. String those 0.1% across a year, and you're up somewhere over 40%. That is a serious gain. Part 5. Why? Save your life. Last thing, why does the book call it saving your life, rather than changing it or upgrading it? The word is deliberate. Who needs saving? The person who's already stuck, out of options. Lee didn't write this for people who are already excellent. He wrote it for people who feel ordinary, even like failures. He wants to tell them, where you are is not the end. It's the starting line. Start using that 1 hour today, and your life still has a chance to be saved. This reminds me of a topic that's everywhere lately. Young people saying they've decided to lie flat, to give up, convinced that effort is useless. Lee's answer in the book: lying flat itself is fine. Everyone gets to choose how to live. But if you lie flat because you think effort is useless, because you think your life has no hope, then I'd say you probably just haven't found the right way to try. When you pin all your hope on the job, on the company, on the boss, of course effort feels useless. You've handed the controls to someone else. Your fate is in their hands. But the moment you start investing in yourself with that after-work time, you take the controls back. Your growth stops depending on whether the company gives you a chance, and starts depending on whether you give yourself one. That is the book's real value. It isn't teaching you how to be a better employee. It's teaching you how not to be trapped by being one. It isn't asking you to work overtime. It's asking you to work for yourself. Closing. So that's the book. 1 hour after work. The only time in your day that's truly yours. Spend it on things that compound. Skill, content, relationship. Build a behavior trigger and shape your environment so it runs without willpower. Hold the slow is fast mindset and stop measuring yourself against anyone but yesterday. Above all, that hour isn't there to tire you out. It's there to put the controls of your life back in your own hands. I'll leave you with a line from the book. Every day you don't strive for yourself is a betrayal of your own life. And every hour you invest in yourself is laying a road for the person you're becoming. That ordinary Tuesday that used to dissolve into phone and TV, it doesn't have to anymore. Name the 1 hour you're claiming for yourself starting tonight, and the one thing you'll do with it. Because the road only appears once you start walking.